Hey everybody, I am, as I say, I am live, and actually I intended to do something. It is now 9:17 out in the Pacific, 12:17 midnight in the East, and it is for some the end of the day of the first day of the rest of the lives of Raider fans. I'll put it just like that. And this is also the first day of the rest of my life being, if you will, engaged in the process of enjoying the music of Lida. You're going to say, Lida? Who's Lida? Lida is a New York musician who is the official music artist of Zenny 62 Media at CES Las Vegas 2019. That's right. And folks, she's got an incredible repertoire of sound. Like, for example, this great piece called Religion off of her album. Her album is called Divine Distraction. I'll play it a little bit. If you want to learn more, just go to oaklandnewsnow.com and then click on Lida at CES 2000. CS Las Vegas.
I'm gonna live my dream right after this party.
Pretty good, huh? It's good dance EDM music.
Dance to the sound of a million.
Oh, if you're wondering, this is her.
Sick to my stomach, but don't worry.
So you're gonna be hearing a lot of Lida in the coming weeks.
Leave me dancing.
Pretty good.
Oh God, I love it.
I think I'll just turn it down, have it play a little bit in the background. Ever so silently, but noticeably. Just a little bit. Yeah. Just a little bit. That's good. And as I do that, I'll turn around and I'll call up the lawsuit, because you know what? Basically, it's like this. I have went through the lawsuit, both the summary and the complaint, and I'm gonna tell you something. There's a case here, but look, I lived it. Okay, going back. Wow, how far back do I go with this doggone thing? I want to say 1993. Yeah, 1993. 1993, when I was a columnist for Montclarian. And according to Monty Poole, who's now Comcast, I broke the story that the Raiders were returning to Oakland, okay? Then I was hired by Oakland Mayor L.E. Harris to be his economic advisor, and I was given the run of everything from redevelopment to the Raiders, okay? And one of my jobs was to monitor the Raiders' compliance with basic points along the master lease agreement. And in 1996, then Oakland Assistant City Manager Ezra Rapport and architect of the original Raiders deal to bring the Raiders back to Oakland from Los Angeles held a meeting with myself, Larry Reed's assistant, and of course Louis Cohen, who worked for Ignacio de la Fuente, who was on my show earlier today, and said to all of us, hey, learn these documents talking about the master lease agreement backward and forward, because nobody else cares. Those are Ezra's words. No one else cares. So you know what? Me being me, that's exactly what I did. I learned them backward and forward, okay? And I say all that to say this. Look, some of you claim to have looked at this. I'm going to turn this off a little bit. And as much as I love her music, but some of you claim to look at this and said, well, it's just like the original lawsuit. It is not in any way like the original lawsuit, save for the fact that they both deal with relocation in the National Football League. And the guy that said this on Twitter, wrote this on Twitter, I said, no, dude, you did not. You did not actually make that claim, did you? Okay. And his idea was that, I don't really know what his idea was. He just tweeted it out. I mean, I know you have 280 characters now, but still. And I just said, I don't want to hear this. Forget it. And the reason I didn't is because of this. The original lawsuit was such that when the California Supreme Court got a hold of it, they said that the National Football League should establish what we now call relocation bylaws. So they called them some type of guidelines. That was lacking. The guidelines that the city of Oakland is accusing the Raiders of not following today were the guidelines that were called for by the court after the original Raiders relocation for Los Angeles. So you can't turn around and say, oh, by the way, they're exactly the same. They're not. You couldn't have one without the other. You had to have this first trial and the guidelines in order to have the current situation of guidelines that were established by the NFL that the Raiders did violate. If you take a look at it, all right? So anyway, I know that that's one of many, many points out there. There's a lot. It's a 49-page document that comes out to like 1.3 megabytes in size online, which is pretty hefty for a document. So Cesar Canada asks, does this lawsuit mean that there's a possibility for the Raiders to play in San Diego next season? Well, Cesar, the lawsuit, to be honest with you, the lawsuit really has nothing to do with where the Raiders decide they want to play for the next year or year plus, okay? If the Raiders want to go to San Diego, there's nothing stopping them from doing that, even if there were no lawsuit. Okay. Having a lawsuit is not going to change the economics of being in San Diego. What's the rental price going to be? How much? Let me put it this, make it really easy. Will the Raiders be able to gain more revenue than the expense of being down there? All right? That's the question. And I don't care where the Raiders turn, that's always going to be the question. At the Coliseum, the Raiders pay more money than they have before, but it's still NFL light. The $6 million the Raiders are going to wind up coughing up are far less than what the Raiders are going to have to cough up in Las Vegas. Why? Because that, $24 million you're going to wind up paying per year is going to go to the bond issue. They're calling that the rent. Okay? But the Raiders have to come up with that. And then the Raiders would have to come up with $14 million at Levi Stadium. So it doesn't matter where the Raiders turn. The Raiders still wind up spending less at the Coliseum. Maybe if they go to San Diego, they spend even less. Maybe. Or maybe the San Diego miners turn around, see dollar signs, and decide, oh, we'll charge them the same rate. Or maybe the politicians decide, hey, you know what? We don't want to get in the middle of their lawsuit. So we're going to make the cost of going there more uncomfortable for them without saying, and then that way we don't have to say, we don't want you. We can just simply make the terms untenable for them. Because you have to remember, it doesn't matter where the Raiders turn. There's also politics. Politics will not go away because they decided, the Raiders, oh, we don't want to be in Oakland. That's not how it works. That is not how it works. Rob Iman says, I don't see the Raiders playing in San Diego next year. I don't either. I believe there's a good case for the Raiders just simply staying put. It doesn't make any sense for them to go anyplace else. I don't care how upset they are. What Mark Davis has to understand is that the Raiders have done this before. They have played in the Coliseum under lawsuits they've established or lawsuits established against them. This environment is nothing new. Nothing new. So he says, oh, well, Mark Davis, well, you know what? I don't want to give money to these guys because they're suing me. Well, boo-hoo. The city of Oakland could say, hey, you know what? You made us pay a lot of money, like spending $120 million or parking $120 million for an infrastructure plan for a stadium that was never used because you guys are basically trying to fool us. Truth. All right. So no, I've looked at the lawsuit and it's exactly as, you know, previous drafts have shown that would be. So for me, again, having lived with this thing for so long, there are no surprises in it. There's nothing in it that I didn't expect to see. All right. It is not based on any pie in the sky, hybrid, unusual reading of the law, which was really the difference back then. It was all novel then. Now we've been through sports relocations, various types of public financing, various types of private financing for sports, a fully mature industry, talking about sports facilities, and team relocations in the politics. So within that rubric, we have a framework, a proper framework within which to appropriately adjudicate the situation. And I think, no, I take that back. I know that's exactly what's going to occur. You know what's sad about this entire deal? And now I'm shifting gears for a second, is when we started out talking about a lawsuit for the Raiders, Blue Fan says, is this like the Rams issue? Can you elaborate on that, Blue Fan? Or do you want to call in and make that case so you don't have to type it? If you want to call and ask the question, here's the phone number. 517-7565. Okay, if you want to call and ask that question, fine. But that way we have a more efficient exchange, okay? So my point is, this is, as far as this being like, I don't know what that means. But Raider Nation was together then when the lawsuit was being considered. Now Raider Nation is fractured. You have people who dumped season tickets. You have people who were out of this thing like Forever Oakland. And now I understand I'm 3,000 miles away. They've been trying to get on local television as if anyone's going to see them because I haven't seen a tweet that represented that they were on a local television. Sorry. It's kind of like, what happens if the tree falls in the forest, right? What happens if the tree falls in the forest and no one is there to either see it fall or hear it fall? Did it really fall? My answer to that question has always been, that rhetorical question has always been this. If it's on the ground, it obviously fell. All right, case closed. But I digress. My point is, these guys, some of them, I don't know what good it does to have one little group over here. Oh, Melvin Ludwig, how are you? Another group over there, another group over there talking as opposed to together. And not only that, the reasons why the groups separated were petty. Petty stuff. I'll just say this, I have never been in a situation in sports media that brought out so much pettiness as this one. I mean, you've got Forever Oakland not talking to We Stand with Oakland, not really working well with Save Oakland Sports, and then you've got these folks over here who don't want to talk to me for reasons that it's not even if when they're told to me, they still don't make any sense. And they're still petty. Okay. I remember I wrote an email to some of these guys and I said, hey, look, you know what? Alameda County Council is not on your side. You're not going to get the support of Alameda County here. Oh no, Zenny, we got this one. You know, what happened was, and I have it on video. They got their keisters handed to them. What I told them was going to happen happened. So what do? They got mad at me. Hey, I warned them. They didn't listen to me. I told them, look, I've been at this longer than you have. I know something about how Oakland and East Bay politics works. Don't ever think you have somebody. Don't ever think you got somebody in your back pocket or that 1,000,000% on your side. Because the minute you think they are, they're going to do something to demonstrate that they're not. I tried to, in this specific instance, it was ripe for that. I mean, ripe for that, okay? So now you have all these folks that are not talking to each other. They're clamoring over to get over on, you know, traditional television. Come on. Ridiculous stuff. All right. Let me get back to the real deal. Let me talk about some other aspects of this case that I think you should know about. First of all, you might be wondering what it means, what this all means. In other words, you know, the complaint's been filed, but is the complaint really lawsuit? Well, no. All the complaint does is it sets up a framework trying to figure out, I don't have any, all it does is it's like this glass. What they've done is they've made this glass, and now the glass has to have water poured in it. So, it's good stuff. The water is all the information that's going to be poured into this new vessel during what's called the discovery period. And that's when things get intense. Like, for example, emails, interviews of the opposition, statements like NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell saying, well, you know, the Raiders have some measure of blame for why they didn't get their own new stadium in Oakland. What does that mean? So what did you mean, Commissioner Goodell? You know, stuff like that. It sets up the tone for the proper discovery and discussion of what Eric Grubman meant and what he was referring to when he started talking about the mouths to feed, okay? I think I actually have the video from that. When he started talking about mouths to feed, and I think there was this time when mouths to feed are basically other uses in a development that produce a net operating income, part of which is used to finance a stadium. So you get like building 1, building 2, building 3, building 4. Like, get all these buildings. And these buildings turn a profit. In other words, their revenues over their expenses, right? Because, you know, everybody's paying the rents and everything else. So you use that over a period of years to float a private bond issue, okay? Works out pretty well for you, right? So, okay. That's the other mouth to feed that Grubman was talking about. In other words, the NFL is basically doing any argument it could to steer the home cities toward public financing. In other words, give me a big check like Las Vegas or $750 million, that sort of thing. And then along came Stan Kroenke with his $7 billion in value, right? You know, something like that. Who's able to use as collateral some of the money he has in his banks But look, Stan is not a fool. He's not going to write a check for a stadium. No rich person in the modern history of stadium finance has ever just blank written a check for a stadium. Because if you did that, you'd never see that money back. You probably wouldn't live enough years to see that back. What you do is you design a stadium and then surrounding environs that collectively throw off enough cash to retire a series of bond issues that in turn give you the monies to have the thing built by construction dudes and dudettes. Okay? That's the idea. It's a simple idea, basically. Made only complicated in matters like this when you have, well, matters like this. Okay? That's it. It's it. But Grubman got caught saying, hey, you know, we've got this these mouths to feed. I mean, I believe I found it. This is May 20th, 2015. This is by Eric Grubman, St. Louis Stadium Report. And I'm about to play here. I think you can hear it.
If you are moderate to severe ulcerative colitis or Crohn's symptoms are holding you back, and your current treatment hasn't worked well enough.
See if I can skip the ad? Yeah, okay.
Your surroundings.
You can't see this.
Okay, so
this is Eric. Listen to this.
We gave a briefing to the
Listen carefully.
ownership a short while ago, and I'm happy to take questions. I'll try to give you answers if I can.
Did you guys indeed decide to condense the timeline for filing for relocation team?
We haven't made a specific decision about condensing it or moving it up, but we have told the membership that we are allowing for that, and that we've told the clubs, we've told the home markets that we're working in a way to be able to make the decision earlier than the March meeting, so everything would move up. We also told them that we didn't see any need to have a filing window that was open for 6 weeks, because the clubs that are interested have made themselves known, and a lot of work.
Now, again, this is Eric. This was May 20th of 2015. This was in San Francisco during the NFL Spring League meeting, okay?
It's gotten done, so we'll probably have an open window, which is much shorter than 6 weeks.
Did you hear any new updates, whether small or large, with regards to the Inglewood or Carson project, just with what the clubs were discussing today in your update meeting today at all?
No, each of the three clubs gave updates and comments on their home markets. They said nothing about their interest in the projects that they're working on in Los Angeles.
Eric, how does the potential LA 2020 Super Bowl factor into this? What is that LA could be a candidate for that game?
Well, that says more about the attractiveness and the potential of the LA market than it does about any particular aspect of the progress. It just so happens that the Super Bowl Advisory Committee and the membership are likely to award 2 Super Bowls next year. And the second of those two Super Bowls lines up with that time when a stadium could have been in operation in Los Angeles for a full year. And so anticipating that might happen, it was necessary to tell the competing clubs, the 4 clubs that were selected to compete for Super Bowl 53 and 54, that there's a possibility that another club could be added to the mix, and that a club would be considered added to the mix if there's a relocation proposal that is voted, and if that relocation proposal provides for a stadium to be done in time.
Oh, hey, folks, let me say something. I know some of you wanted to make a comment, but let me say, you can also call in. All right, I got my phone right here, okay? You can call in. Now, I've got a kind of a preview block here, so, but and I think, because Jim Malcontent was saying, yeah, Discovery produces the meat and bones, right? And Jim says, I think the Raiders will play in somewhere like Boise. Yeah. Hennessy says, so they're trying to keep the name and colors in Oakland. Well, no. It's about getting the money first. Hennessy asked that question before. Jim says, Hennessy, I was thinking the same thing. Cowboy Rush says, Z, in your honest opinion, is this the last year of the Oakland Raiders, or do you think Davis is bluffing? No, I don't think Mark is bluffing. All right. I don't think it's fair to characterize Mark as bluffing. But I do think he's confused. And look, Mark is still new to this stuff, okay? And if I had my druthers and I were directly advising Mark Davis, I would say, you know what? I think you need to stay out of this in terms of running a team and keep your ego out of it and your decision-making, because arguably Mark Davis' decision-making has been the producer of the lion's share of problems the Raiders have had over the past 3 years, okay? Just straight up, well, take it back further than that, okay? Let's say the past 6 years. So, or back to when he fired Amy Trask. He should have just simply left, and nothing against Mark Benet. He's done a fantastic job, but just left Amy in place and let Amy and Mark run the team and get out of the way and enjoy his life. That's the way you do it. But, you know, he had to insert himself, and he feels that he has to insert himself. It's certainly his right. I'm not discounting that, but he doesn't need to. The best owner in the NFL, I've always felt, was Clint Murchison of the Dallas Cowboys. Mr. Murchison was never involved. He hired experts. He hired the best. He hired, you know, Jerry Jones would say that Tex Schramm spent too much money. I get that. But then, of course, Jerry Jones is an excellent businessman, as we've all seen. Having said that, the Cowboys were ran by Tex Schramm as president, Gil Brandt as director of player personnel, and Tom Landry as head coach. And they had that team for, what, 29 years, okay? That's stability. So what Mark needs to aim for, what I thought he was aiming for, was stability. He's not getting that. Mark Davis is the problem. Straight up, Mark Davis is the problem. And the way Mark can be less of the problem is to not insert himself into the decisions of the Raiders in this haphazard way. And that's the way to call it. There's no, and this is not a criticism of Mark on a personal level, but it's a fact. Hold on a second. Hello. Oh, I guess somebody was trying to call in. Maybe not. Is this the case?
Hello?
Yes. Hello.
Vinny.
Yes.
Vinny, yes, I'm watching your show, and I'm
sure.
And I'm trying to, I want to ask you a question. I'm a diehard Raider fan, but I'm pretty upset about them going to Vegas, and I'm not happy about it at all.
Yes,
they don't ask the city for money. But my question is, how come the city is not acting for the colors as well as the name, like the Seattle Supersonics did, like Seattle did with the Supersonics?
Because you'll lose. I mean, the whole point is, look.
Didn't they still win?
No, I mean, the only reason. Let me ask you a question. Why is it that? Where did you get? No, please don't take my question as being. I don't mean to be insulting. I'm just asking the question. Where did you get the idea that the name and the colors should be gotten?
Oh, because I thought I was just under. Because I remember when back then, when Seattle Supersonics were leaving, going to Oklahoma City, they fought for the city and the name and the colors, and the city kept them, and that's why the owner of the Thunder now, you know, he changed the name as well as the colors.
See, what I'm trying to figure out is where it came out.
If I'm not mistaken, it was ESPN that reported it. I'll look it up to double check.
Oh yeah, I'm just no. Here's the reason I ask. It sounds like somebody put the idea out there that this is going to happen, and I know it's something that people want to happen, right?
Right.
But the reality of a person who, when I say live this, I mean, you know, work for the mayor and everything else is, and also have been involved in this, is it completely skips over the fact that we were lied to about a great many things. Okay. And so the only way, and see, it's a painstaking process. The only way you get to a point where you say, oh, gee, hey, you know what? The judge has said, you know what? The damage award is $500 million, but you want treble damages, so we're looking at $1.5 billion. Oh, gee, what does that equal? And then you start talking about stuff like team. You see what I'm getting at?
Right. I understand where you're going with this.
Yeah. In other words, you have to go through. You have to really trudge through the forest to get to the lake. You know.
Right.
And the forest is not an easy walk. You know, I mean, it's got a lot of, it's got some creeks, it's got some turns, it's got some chiggers, you know, it's got some poison ivy here and there. It's not an easy walk. That said, it's not as difficult a walk this time as it was the first time the city challenged the Raiders when the Raiders moved to Los Angeles. In fact, on a scale of 1 to 10, this is about a 4, whereas that was definitely a 10 in terms of difficulty. All right, this is a 4. But to answer your question, the way you get there is you don't say, "Hey, we want to stop you from moving." No, you say, "Hey, go ahead and move, but we want monetary damages." And then they'll say, "Why?" "Well, you didn't act in good faith. You didn't act in accordance with your own contract, right?" And so then that's where there's a hard-bound case. And that case is red letter, or if you like, silver and black letter, huge. I mean, I'll give you an example, okay? When let's just, I'll pick a number of them. I'll pick 2. May 18th of 2015, 2 days before the Eric Grubman piece I was playing, the mayor called me, Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf. She says, "Who's Carmen Policy?" So I'm talking to her about Carmen Policy. This was just before the NFL owners meeting was to start. And to make a long story short, I told her that the Raiders were working behind her back to move to Carson. She denied what I was saying, up and down, did not believe it. All right. So she and I concocted a plan. And the plan was for me to go to Mark Davis and ask him straight up if he was working behind the mayor's back. And so the very next day, and this is on video on Zenny 62, that's exactly what I did. He turned 3 shades of red, looked at me like he wanted to choke me, but then basically admitted right then and there that, hey, look, you know, he was looking for someplace else.
Right.
And then that same day, he goes out to the fans, including Dr. Death was out there, and he says, "I'm doing everything I can to keep the team here." And that's on that. Right. Yeah. Right. "I'm doing everything I can. I'm doing everything I can." Well, really, you're not. All right. And that was okay. So my point is, that was the first view from the mayor's position that, hey, you know what? Something's wrong here. And then the other one was the very next, okay, fast forward to next year, 2016, January 16th. Houston. At the NFL owners meeting, Mark Davis loses the vote. Stan Kroenke wins the right. Right. Okay.
Remember that.
Mark is standing there, and instead of using the magic words, "I'm committing to Oakland," which is what Roger, the commissioner, NFL commissioner Roger Goodell, wanted to hear.
He said we don't have no place to stay. He said, I mean, we have no place to play.
Yeah.
I don't know where we're going.
And if you have a chance, if you have a chance, go back and watch that video and look at Roger's expression. Look at how he looks at Mark. It's like he's looking at him and saying, "What are you saying? Dude, why are you saying this?" Look at his expression.
I remember that.
Right? Okay, check that out. Okay. And so then it turns out that there's this little muttering about a rumor that maybe the Raiders are going to Las Vegas, but it's so like unthinkable. You're thinking, nah, no way. But
right. That's what we're all saying.
And then it turns out that it's true. And Larry Reed told me 4 months later, after the NFL decision, he said the Raiders lied to us. He was livid. I mean, Larry was so livid that in his weakened condition, because he's been sick a lot, I think he could have put his fist through some kind of hole, some type of wall. That's how mad he was. Okay? Talking about the Oakland District 7 council member. And so I've just played out to you 2 occasions where the city of Oakland realized they were being lied to.
Right, because I feel like he put the city of Oakland and the fans how you going to ask somebody to build you a car, then turn around and ask you to put gas in it? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel like that's what he did. He asked us to build him a stadium, been asking us to buy a ticket. Like,
Yeah.
come on now, like really?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like like you're just robbing us at this point to the point where we have nothing to do. You wanna go. You know what I mean? You wanna go, and I feel in my heart that his father, Al Davis, is not happy with him. Right? He would not be happy with Gruden and what he's doing with the team. And first of all, why would you hire a coach that your father got rid of? 2 coaches, Tom Cable and Tom Cable and
that's true.
John Gruden. Like, how can you do that? Like, what are you doing, guy? Like, what are you doing? Your father did not want these people here for a reason.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, no, he went back. You're absolutely right. He went back and got him. And look, I have to say, I always stop myself by saying that I got on board with Gruden because I thought he was going to do a better job. I thought John had understood the modern game better than it was revealed that he did. Because the one thing that John, I think, forgot, if he ever realized, that today's game is a speed game. It's like Paul Zimmerman in Sports Illustrated would say it's a speed game. It's a black game. You know, you have to have fast guys, right? And John seemed like he was determined to put in slow guys. It's like, what are you doing?
Right.
You know?
Everything Al Davis went against him. Everything Al Davis did not believe in.
Right.
He did not believe in that.
No.
And it just blows my mind on how, and it's funny because I sit there and I watch ESPN and I watch how Mark Davis had nerve to say that Reggie McKenzie's plan failed. Mm-hmm. No, it worked. We were in the playoffs just 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We were talking about being a Super Bowl team, and all of a sudden Gruden gets in there, and all of a sudden everybody's going. You look at Amari Cooper over there in Dallas. You look at Khalil Mack over there in Chicago. Yep. These players are playing at the top of their game, and I don't know if you caught this, Zinni, and this has a lot to do with the whole stadium situation. Mm-hmm. Did you catch what Amari Cooper said the other day? He said,
I sure did.
This is what I dreamed of.
Yeah.
This is what I dreamed of. This is the experience that I dreamed of. That was a shot to the Oakland Raiders.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, I mean it was embarrassment. It was embarrassment to the city, to the Raiders, everything. And Casper asks, he says, do you think Derek Carr can develop into a top flight quarterback? He's been playing well in the last month. I've always thought he was a top flight quarterback, but Derek's been under what? How many offensive coordinators? I mean, he had.
This should be like 3.
Right.
No.
4.
The same one. Greg Olsen. He had Greg Olsen twice.
Yeah. Right. He had Olsen twice. He had Downing and Musgrave. So
yeah, Musgrave was the best one. Musgrave was the best one that he had.
Yeah, and so, and then I think about Cowboy Wrestlers saying Gruden has been a disaster. The only reason why they beat the Steelers is because the Steelers are a disaster themselves.
No, they should have never even beat the Browns. That was a fumble. Derek Carr actually fumbled that ball. Like,
you said that, yeah. Yeah, you said that better than I could have ever said. Malcontent says Amari Cooper specifically mentioned how much he loved the facility and the winning. No, it definitely hurt. Cowboy Rush says, look up the video on Davis conducting an interview after the failed LA vote. He says Mark acted like a pure child. I was there, and no, it was not comfortable at all. It was not pretty for him, and it wasn't a good look. Hey, so what are you a season ticket holder?
No, I'm just a diehard fan. I grew up in Providence. I have never got a chance to go to an Oakland Raider game. I watch every game. I know everything about the Raiders. Mm-hmm. Any questions from all the players, Al Davis, I just know. Yeah, I'm just a diehard fan. Who's
your favorite player?
My favorite player of all time is Charles Woodson on the Oakland Raiders. But right now, I don't have a favorite player because they got rid of all my favorite players right now. Khalil Mack was but Khalil Mack knows Amari Cooper, but both of them are gone now. So, I don't know.
And Eric Lott says, letting go of Musgrave was a moment Jack Del Rio tenure went south. Yeah, I have to agree. And I don't know. I think Jack himself was a little guilty of, I think, cutting people off at the wrong time and not dealing well with people who criticized him. And
But I think with Jack kind of felt, if you listen to Mark Davis,
mm-hmm.
if you listen to Mark Davis, a lot of people got to give Jack a little bit of leeway. If you listen to Mark Davis, Jack Del Rio never had a solid Oakland Raider head coaching job. He always wanted Gruden. And yeah. Get out. Stuff gets out. You know what I mean? And that was never Mark Davis's guy. So
That's true.
He always had if you really look at it, he never had a fair shot. Mm-hmm. He took our team to the playoffs when we haven't been there since 2002.
That's true. Because you're absolutely right about that. Because I believe it took, and I only read this, I'm not certain, but 6 years Davis had been going after Gruden, something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Rick 477 says, so the city is suing the Raiders for the team in colors. I read that somewhere. No, it's not that. No. Again, you want to get to a settlement for money, and that settlement for money. Look, the only way you're going to see the team name in colors is if the settlement happens to be, or if the award, not the settlement, if the award happens to be in the billions. If the award happens to be in the billions, then you start talking about that kind of settlement. But you have to go through the court, let the jury just make its decision and hope for the best. But
do you think the Oakland Raiders can stay in Oakland? Do you think there's any possibility? Here's the problem. If I say, if I answer the affirmative, someone will go around and say, oh yeah, you said they were going to stay. Let me say this. Is there a possibility that this deal in Las Vegas could fall apart? The question is, how would it fall apart? Right.
And the answer is, it would fall apart because someone didn't have enough money. Now, the question is, now Ignacio De La Fuente confirmed something that I have supined all along just by looking at the stadium's progress. He said, and Ignacio's on the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority, he said that thing is running into some challenges and delays. If you take a look, and the thing that we're talking about, folks, is Las Vegas Stadium. And the problem was they were late getting their rebar shipments. So if you take a look at the stadium itself in a live stream, live cam during the day, and then go and look at the Mortensen video online about its progress, and you will see a fundamental difference in where the stadium is in the model and reality. Okay.
Wow.
And if you take a look at those, I'm telling you, it's off. You have one side of the stadium that's overdeveloped more than the other, and it's clear that something is missing. And the bottom line is that it is not following its own construction pattern as laid out by Mortensen in that video. It's off. It's off. So I've
seen the stadium personally. I've seen it. I've been to Vegas, so I've seen it.
When was the last time you saw it? When was the most recent? Because I have 3 videos
October.
on it.
I seen it October 21st, and it didn't look halfway done yet.
Reed said Trump tariffs. Here we go. Rob Iman says if the award ends up in the billions, Mark Davis will likely end up being forced to sell the Raiders. Someone else said this to me that I hate. Now I'm not even going to say this option because I hate to think about it because it's personal. I'll just leave that since it makes my stomach turn. I'll leave that aside. It's a particular scenario that's very personal with respect to him. I hope it does not come to pass, but if it does, he would have to sell the team. A number of people I think know what that is. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I have a question about this. Does Martin Davis own the Raiders, or does his mom own the Raiders?
It's his mom. He has the controlling interest through his mother, as I understand it. So it's really her, but she's passed it to him.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Because my understanding, I was told. I think it's nothing with Carol Davis.
Right.
I believe that I believe Al left the team actually to her and not to Mark.
Right.
And she let him control it.
Right.
And a lot of people need to realize how come Al did not leave the team to his son. I don't know, that's personal, but it kind of raises some eyebrows. Like, how come it just, I don't know.
Well, I think the way it was done is that the way Amy wrote the paperwork up, Mark was supposed to take control. So Mark is in his rightful place. I don't want to imply at all that Mark Davis is in his position, in a position he shouldn't be in. That would be wrong.
Okay.
He is in the position he's supposed to be in. It was designed that way by a group of lawyers with Amy, under the direction of Amy Trask when she was CEO. And then it took effect, sadly, when Mr. Davis passed on October 8th of 2011. So no, I don't. I mean, look, I want to say this. I'll say it again. I have the utmost respect, love and respect for the Davis family. I just simply don't agree with how they've handled things, and I'm not the only one. So Malcontent says, even if the Raiders lose this case and are hit with treble damages, I don't see an award over $650,000 to $750,000. Either way, the partner. And the reason why I say that is because of this. If you ever have a chance, take a look at the financial report for the Oakland Coliseum, and I want you to read the audited financial statement. In fact, I will read it to you. I will find it right now. If I can put this down over here, I will read it because it's worth noting. If I type Oakland Coliseum meetings, JPA, in meetings like that, meetings Oracle Arena. I'm sorry. Okay, I've got the agendas, board packet, canceled. Okay. Trying to find the see public information. And that would be, that's all right. Financial report. Here we go. Hopefully that. Oh, you know what? It's funny how you click financial report, you get KISS. Okay, you get amended forms, Warriors playoffs, final forms, a lot of forms here. Okay. Budget 2016, 2017. And I believe that should do it. This is opening right now. Oakland, yeah, this is it. Financial statements with independent auditors reports for the year ended June 30th, 2016. This is by MGO Certified Public Accountants. What I'm about to read to you is the independent auditors report. And there's a particular paragraph I'm looking for, okay? And it says that, this is it. It's called Basis for Adverse Opinions on Governmental Activities and the Special Revenue Fund. As discussed in Note 4 to the basic financial statements, the authority has loans receivable. I repeat, the authority has loans receivable. I'll repeat that again. The authority has loans receivable from the Oakland Raiders in the amount of $155,562,629 as of June 30th, 2016. These loans have increased in the amount of $6,890,325 in fiscal year 2016 and have increased a total of $92,366,439 since the inception of these loans in fiscal year 1996. The authority has not adopted a methodology for reviewing the collectability of Raider loans receivable reported in the government activities and the major special revenue fund, and accordingly has not considered the need to provide an allowance for uncollectible amounts. The authority has not evaluated the recoverability of these loans through the maturity date in fiscal year 2036. Accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America require that an adequate allowance be provided for uncollectible receivables, which would decrease the assets, net position fund balance, and the change in net position fund balance in governmental activities and the major special revenue fund. The amount by which this department would affect the assets, net position / fund balance, and change in net position fund balance of the government activities and the major special revenue fund has not been determined. Now, folks, in all of that, there's one thing that was not said, that the city of Oakland and the county of Alameda, the JPA, was not deserving of that money. In other words, that's a value that has been calculated. All this document says is, hey, they need to figure out a way to read it. What does that mean? It means this. It means that Ezra told me and the others when we were talking about the Raiders deal, he said, hey, look, all right? He said, hey, look. I said to Ezra, I said, hey, look, if this is a non-recourse loan, this is 96, folks. I said, if this is a non-recourse loan, what does it mean? He says, no, well, now we can really get the money back. I said, how do we get the money back? He said, well, the money, I said, the payment, Ezra said the payment the Raiders are making on the loan was by being at the Coliseum. All right? Again, the payment the Raiders were making on the loan was by being at the Coliseum. As long as the Raiders were at the Coliseum, they didn't owe anything. But now they're trying to leave. So now the question is, bingo, how much of this do they pay? And the argument is all of it, which equals, according to my calculations, about $28 million. Now treble that alone, okay? Alone. My point is, folks, you already have, I've said this before, and I'll say this again, you already have the basis for the damage award that the court would exact upon the Raiders. This thing has been sitting there like a, excuse my language, like a ticking time bomb. I was about to curse, I'm not going to. It's like a ticking time bomb, just growing and growing and growing, and it's still growing, okay? And it's not, and the Raiders can't say, hey, the JPA didn't do anything about it, because it points to the Raiders. The dang on thing mentions the Oakland Raiders specifically. That's it. You see what I'm getting at? So the Raiders, all right. Cowboy Wrestler says, Zinni, curse, we're all grown here. All right. And so my point is, and Todd Gex says there's a lot of media saying the lawsuit had no chance in winning for Oakland. I didn't see a lot of media saying that. I said I saw 3 people saying the same thing over and over again. He said they didn't like how Las Vegas was portrayed in the lawsuit. Sounds like NFL-sponsored media shills to me. I could be.
They said someone from Oakland said there's no chance of winning either. They said somebody from the Oakland camp on the city camp.
I don't. Oh, that would probably be Lynette. But see, Lynette abstained from voting, and Lynette's on the JPA, but Lynette does not understand the techniques of this. And I'm not saying that for any other reason than it's not her area to understand that. She hasn't paid much attention. She doesn't really read the documents behind it. She hasn't, I mean, she could apply herself. She's a really smart person, okay? But the fact of the matter is this is not something that has been important to her. And yet she's been on the Coliseum JPA, which I think is unfortunate for all of us. You know, you need somebody like Rebecca was on there. She was committed. Rebecca Kaplan, the Oakland at-large council member, was committed, really, really paid attention to what was happening. That's not, Lynette could care less, to be honest. And that's a detriment to us all. So, but I submit to you that Lynette does not understand the techniques behind this and their history. And so is not, because of that, is not the best source for determining how this adjudication is going to come out. I'm saying that publicly, and I'm saying that right here for the record. You know, if she's watching, there you go. But there it is.
Thank you for clearing that up, Zinni. Thank you.
Hey, no problem, man. Hey, thanks for calling in.
Oh, thank you, Zinni.
You got anything you want to add?
No, man. Please keep giving.
I mean, you don't have to go. I just thought you were about to hang up. So.
No. I was about to hang up. The reason why is because when I read that, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people, a lot of your viewers are reading the same thing that I'm reading. Obviously, we're all reading the same articles that get put out there. So when somebody says something like that, especially comes to the Oakland City Council, it's like, what? Like, what's going on? What do you mean? Like you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Well,
hey, I could have some fun here, though. I mean, look, Steve Sebelius, who is a journalist in Vegas, he put out a really interesting tweet. And I will read to you right now what he put out because I retweeted it. And hold on a second. I want to make sure I don't misquote him because I thought it was nice, little juicy little thingy here, right? And he says, this is what Steve writes. He says, this is 7 hours ago. He writes, I'd like to file an amicus brief, which is a friend of the court brief, specifically to argue to prevent the Raiders' move to Las Vegas and keep the team in Oakland. Now, this is Steve Sebelius, and Steve Sebelius is a journalist, a political analyst in Las Vegas for their CBS affiliate at 8 News Now, and he's co-host of the weekly show Politics Now. All right, so this is a guy, a seasoned, Las Vegas journalist who's basically saying that he doesn't want Raiders in Las Vegas. All right, and then if you take a look at, you go to Twitter, you go to Zenny62, right, and see my tweet, you can see he's a white guy with a bald head. He takes care of his head. You know, I have to give him props on the head. He's got it smooth. I'm jealous. The whole point is Steve. The replies to Steve's tweet go like this. Jasper says, I say we buy the team and have Oakland build the stadium for us. And then Robert Langford says, I do pro bono. And then Mommy Dunn Lost It says, I second that motion to Steve Sebelius. And then Tracy Heinhold Keith says, I'm down to draft that Steve Sebelius. And then Exmore says, no. He says, now they have to come here, fail the profit, and demand more tax money to support their franchise. So when Major League Baseball comes here to Las Vegas, we can stick it to them. We can stick them in the stadium and make the Raiders secondary to baseball. Then this is another one. It says, agree 100%. Keep the traffic, crime, and bankruptcy there in Oakland. And then Gary T. Coleman says, Oakland is better off without the Chargers. They offloaded the financial burden to Vegas. And then another person says, Care Bear says, me too. The filth that's following it is disgusting, which means referring to Raiders fans, which is awful. But my point is, these are people in Las Vegas, folks. All right? Which gives you a full and complete picture of what's going on. Not everybody is on board with this thing. All right? So this is a fine mess all the way around. You cannot characterize this as anything other than a fine mess for the Raiders. And so that's why. So this can turn in any direction. You know, it really can. The best option for the Raiders, you know, if Mark wants to keep his life simple, which I really wonder, is for him to just stay at the Coliseum. So you know what? I'm going to ride this out. We're going to figure out a way to make everybody happy. All right. Donna says, will this go all the way to the Supreme Court? My prediction is maybe. I'm not, Donis, I will say this. This is not as complicated a go by any means as the first lawsuit way back in 82. No, this is not that. This is not that animal, okay? Cabaressa says, Michael Gonzalez, what outlet did you get that from? What were you from? Oh, Michael Gonzalez is claiming that Bulldog Stadium in Fresno to host the Raiders for the 2019 season and possibly 2019-2020 per anonymous source, whatever. Look, you're going to hear everything. If that's the case, I'll just say, hey, why don't you have the Raiders play at Kezar in San Francisco? Why not? You know, why not Frank Ewell Field? Okay.
I have a question.
Jeez. Yeah.
How long can this lawsuit? How long? Because I know the NFL they have lawyers. We all know. How long can this lawsuit play out till? Because I know it's not an overnight thing. I was just wondering how long can this go on till? Probably at least 10 years, right? 10 to 5 years.
It could go on that long, yeah. 5 to 10 years. I would say 5 to 6 years, somewhere in there. Malcontent says 2 to 3. I say 5 to 6. I mean, I think it's a long haul. Now, Malcontent, I think maybe Cyril can call in and ask and fill this for us, but I think that he might be basing his prediction on the fact that, you know, look, this thing's pretty cut and dry. In terms of the violations regarding good faith, these are replete. you can go to Zenny62 on YouTube, type Roger Goodell. In fact, you know what? I'll play it for you. I've got Grubman up here. I'll play the one where I'll type Roger Goodell, and then Zenny62 YouTube, and I'll find the one where Roger basically says, well, you'll hear it in a second, all right? It's 24 seconds long, folks. Get your ears ready, because here it comes. This is about to be NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell.
It's not fair to shift all of that responsibility to the Raiders. They bear some. But public officials, the private sector, Raiders, the NFL, we all have a responsibility. It's a shared responsibility. And it's not one for standing there and saying it's somebody else's responsibility. We all have to work together to find that solution.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Now, let me go back and give you the full, because I have a longer video. This is the longer one, which is 2 minutes and 23 seconds, May 24th, 2016.
Why do glasses cost more at the store?
That's the commercial. Hold on a second. Let me get the commercial. All right.
When you buy
Skip the ad. Here we go.
I've talked with a number of Oakland officials, including the mayor as recently as yesterday, and they'll all express, and this goes back the last 12 months, concerns that the Raiders are not negotiating with them in a way that they can trust. When I point out to them that the NFL relocation bylaws called for negotiating in good faith, they say they have no confidence in the National Football League's desire to police that. Can you clarify, because what's become behind closed doors a very big mess? Thank you.
Well, Zenny, listen, I think this has been a very transparent issue. I spoke to the mayor last night at 10 o'clock, so I'm in touch with her. I told her before if there are proposals or solutions that she can identify or that we can help them identify. We have given, from an ownership standpoint, another $100 million, $300 million to get a stadium built in Oakland. We believe in that market. I know Mark Davis does. But there has to be a solution that's developed. It's not just on us. There's got to be cooperative agreement to try to find that solution. It's been a long time coming, as you know, Zen. This isn't something that started 12 months ago. This has been a long time that we've been seeking a solution in Oakland, and it's time to get to that. And we will play our part, and I know the Raiders will also.
Is they concerned that Mr. Davis is perhaps playing his own game and not following anybody else? And this has to do with Las Vegas. UNLV President Lynn Jessup releasing a statement where they went off, being the Raiders, to visit them. The city of Oakland had no knowledge of it. The Raiders told the city of Oakland, we're not going to meet with you. They didn't tell them about Vegas. They said, wait until we deal with Houston, meeting with Los Angeles. Then they said, wait until we have a new lease agreement signed, which happened on the 27th of April. So there are a number of people, council members on down, city attorney's office, they're really concerned that the Raiders are not playing fairly with them.
Well, Danny, I take a different view on that.
And folks, I have to say one thing. This is where your lawsuit started, okay? This laid the groundwork for what you're reading today. This exchange, everything that we're talking about is encapsulated right here in this video between the commissioner and I, dated March 24th of 2016. And if any media out there is doing their job, this is the video you need to play over and over again for your viewers. Okay? This is laid out right here. Right here. You know what I'm saying on the phone? I mean, this is laying out.
Yeah, I'm getting it.
You know, this is laid out right here. All right. Everything. I'm gonna replay this, folks, because I want it cemented in your brain collectively where all this started. All right, right here.
I've talked with a number of Oakland officials, including the mayor as recently as yesterday, and they'll all express, and this goes back the last 12 months, concerns that the Raiders are not negotiating with them in a way that they can trust. When I point out to them that the NFL relocation bylaws called for negotiating in good faith, they say they have no confidence in the National Football League's desire to police that. Can you clarify, because what's become behind closed doors a very big mess? Thank you.
Well, Zenny, Listen, I think this has been a very transparent issue. I spoke to the mayor last night at 10 o'clock, so I'm in touch with her. I told her before if there are proposals or solutions that she can identify or that we can help them identify. We have given, from an ownership standpoint, another $100 million, $300 million to get a stadium built in Oakland. We believe in that market. I know Mark Davis does. But there has to be a solution that's developed. It's not just on us. There's got to be cooperative agreement to try to find that solution. It's been a long time coming, as you know, Danny. This isn't something that started 12 months ago. This has been a long time that we've been seeking a solution in Oakland, and it's time to get to that. And we will play our part, and I know the Raiders will also.
Is they concerned that Mr. Davis is perhaps playing his own game and not following anybody else? And this has to do with Las Vegas. UNLV President Lynn Jessup releasing a statement where they went off being the Raiders to visit them. The city of Oakland had no knowledge of it. The Raiders told the city of Oakland, we're not going to meet with you. They didn't tell them about Vegas. They said, wait until we deal with Houston, meeting with Los Angeles. Then they said, wait until we have a new lease agreement signed, which happened on the 27th of April. So there are a number of people, council members on down, city attorney's office. They're really concerned that the Raiders are not playing fairly with them.
Well, Danny, I take a different view on that. The Raiders have been very open about the challenges to get a stadium built. It's not fair to shift all of that responsibility to the Raiders. They bear some. But public officials, the private sector, the Raiders, the NFL, we all have a responsibility. It's a shared responsibility. And it's not one for standing there and saying it's somebody else's responsibility. We all have to work together to find that solution.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Now, see, in this, Commissioner Goodell said that the Raiders bear some responsibility. What did he mean? Okay. What did he mean? All right. What did he mean? Okay. What did he do? What did he mean? You know, that's the big question that I have. And that's why we need this process of adjudication to start, because we have never had any relief regarding the answer to that question. What did the commissioner mean when he said the Raiders bear some of the blame, some of the responsibility? Okay. And what I did was I took, you know, and James McClendon says, wow, the evidence is laid out on video in black and white, no refuting the truth. Zenster caught red-handed in there with a cookie jar. Hey, you know, and he says, you were going to say, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the commissioner, if you go back and you remember the vote, you remember what the Miami Dolphins owner said, the reason why he voted no?
I sure do. Yeah.
If you remember what he said, he basically said how can a city help you out if you're not willing to talk to him? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Mark Davis was not willing to talk to the city of Oakland, and I think that he said, you go back, I can't say what he said word for word because my memory will not allow me.
Can I help you?
If you go back to,
yeah, I ran into him at a dinner that I was at with African American media people, and at this is because what he's talking. The vote, of course, was at the NFL annual meeting in 2017, excuse me, in Phoenix. And we, at that dinner that night, I ran into Mr. Ross, and he said to me, you know, he just shrugged and he says, look, they don't have the deep pockets. They don't have the money. That's what he said. He basically is saying, hey, look, why do we want to give the Raiders a chance to do something they don't have the financial wherewithal to do? Pretty simple.
Right.
You know, pretty simple.
And that's Mark Davis' fault, correct?
Well, it's, you know what? It's the fault of the owners for allowing him to do that, as much as it is for trying to do it. And okay. And I'm still surprised. I was surprised then. I told John Clayton I was surprised before the meeting because I ran into John at the airport and we did a video interview.
I've seen that.
Thank you. And John Clayton's a great guy. And so, you know, I'm still shocked the media would put one of their own in a position like this without $1 billion of cushion. And then if you start drilling down, you take the NFL away for a moment, you start looking at the way the politics of the deal came out in Las Vegas. The Raiders even got screwed then, because originally the Southern Nevada Tourism and Infrastructure Act, the SNTIA, that came out of the Southern Nevada Tourism and Infrastructure Committee, had within it a provision where the stadium authority could establish its own tax increment financing district of, get this, folks, get this, 25 miles in circumference. No, excuse me, 25 miles in radius. So basically, the stadium is at the center of it, all right? And the law was set up. This is how crazy this is how crazy this was. The law was set up where the stadium authority can look in any direction for 25 miles and say, we want to buy that land, and we'll do it, and we'll take the property tax from that, and we'll use that to develop whatever facility we want to build there within that 25-mile zone. And then the stadium authority could develop its tax increment district within that zone, and then use that toward the infrastructure for the stadium, which means the Raiders, had that provision remained in the law, financially, it would have been just fine. They would have had, by my estimation, an additional $300 million to play with. They took that away. So they took that away because why? Because Mr. Adelson at the time was in it. He says, you know, I don't need that. He was going to spend his own money because he ultimately wanted control of the Raiders. So he was trying to move out every little bit of way that Davis had a little extra money from the government to help with. And so he basically got whittled down to that, just that one $750 million subsidy. And then Adelson backed out, which I still think was a trick to get the votes. Okay. But then he got back in, figuring that, hey, you know, Davis only has $750 million. He needs money from some source. Here I am. But the bottom line is the deal has a liquidity problem. It doesn't have as much cash as it needs to get built on time and in a way where you can say it's well done. It's not there yet. Not that it can't get there. Okay, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm pointing out a deficiency. Okay. And Ryan Abbott said, you know, you're right. Adelson wanted to buy the team. Yeah, he wanted to buy it. And if you remember, Ryan, at the time, it was a different climate. It wasn't, you know, the idea that the Supreme Court would come in and say, hey, gambling is legal for sports. What? No, not at all. And no one wanted to bet the ranch that was going to happen. It happened, right? So Okuma points out that the lawyer talking about Jim Quinn is 5-0 against the NFL. I got to get Jim Quinn on this show. Ryan asked me, what do you think a buyout settlement would be for Oakland to drop the lawsuit? That's a very good question. I think a buyout settlement, given the mayor, would be, I think Libby would love to walk away. If Libby were smart, and she is, I think Libby would love to walk away with a situation where she says, look, I got $1.5 billion. I'm getting a new team here. The Raiders can stay in Las Vegas, or maybe they stay here. Because under those circumstances, the Raiders would have reached a fork in the road. What are you going to do? Because this impacts the future of your franchise. Can you afford to just give them $1 billion and stay in Vegas? I want to see you do that. Okay. Because Libby's thinking about, hey, look, I've got 4 years. What am I going to do next? Am I going to, okay, after 4 years, where am I going to go? Am I going to run for senator? Because after 4 years, you're looking at Dianne Feinstein. Dianne Feinstein's, you know, you think maybe drop out after that. Who's going to take her place? Libby would probably be eyeing that Senate seat. So what gift would she have to have in her hand to be able to reach for that brass ring at that level? This is that gift, okay? This is that gift. This would be that huge. So right now, I would say she's in the driver's seat, okay? That could happen. I could see that happening. I mean, the fact that we've gotten this far, and the fact that St. Louis is, I think someone else pointed out here that St. Louis has laid the groundwork for what Oakland is doing, because St. Louis is racking up victories. Basically over the same arguments. Okay? And the reason is the NFL laid out this playbook, and it's the same playbook, and they used it for San Diego, used it for Oakland, used it for St. Louis. All right? And Ryan Adams he says, how much is the bond and taxes they protected? Ryan, I don't understand. Are you saying how much of the bond and taxes are you saying here? Okay. Malcontent says, Z, that's why I said 2 to 3 years. Malcontent, why don't you call in? But Malcontent says, that's what I've been saying for over a year. The Raiders franchise is basically broke compared to the other franchises. Yeah. Yeah. And see, what has hurt them, all right, in the current situation is you have, this is ugly too, folks. You've got a stadium tax that's too low. You have a situation where for the past 2 months, the visitation rates in Las Vegas have been less in total than they were the previous year, which means what? Which means that the hotel stadium tax revenue is going to be less, which means what? Which means that the Las Vegas stadium budget that was teetering close to like break even, is probably headed to deficit right now. Okay? What does that mean? It means this. The Raiders are collecting that money. They had anticipated a certain amount, like $5 million a month, that they would then collect and apply toward the construction of the stadium. And this is why I believe there is that delay. Because they're not getting as much as they were told they were going to get. Oh, and then, hello, you have to start paying down the bond issue next year. And there's a, by my calculation, average of $500,000 per month shortfall right there alone. Which, balloons to something like $261 million over a 30-year period. So, all right. So, Reed says, after this, Oakland will never see another football team. Well, after what? You don't know how it's going to come out, Reed. Ryan Abbott said 30-year bond from 95 plus the taxes from businesses, from people going to the game. Sorry. Oh, I get you. Oh, 30-year bond from 95. Oh, that one. Our bond issue. Okay. We're, I think we're about $90 million from paying that off. Yeah. Rob Iman says, I don't see the Vegas hotel tax revenue increasing next year with a possible recession looming. I don't either, Rob. No, that's horrible. And you get this too. Do you realize that there hasn't been any update? This is December. There is no Las Vegas stadium meeting. You won't have one until next year. So what does that do? It gives them the opportunity to keep everything quiet. No news is good news. Okay. Even though it would be bad. All right. Cowboy Wrestler says, read 510, you can always start a new football league. You can be the Lamar Hunt of your generation. So he goes like this. I get you. Osmondeus, how you doing, man? How you doing? I think Oakland will definitely see another football team. I mean, that's for dang sure, as they say. But no, this is not a great state of affairs for the Raiders. It just isn't. Yeah. It is 1:37. Hey, by the way, folks, I've talked about Lydia. I don't want to be remiss if that's remiss in my duties, since I am promoting the great sound of, I said Lydia, it's Lyda. It's called Religion on her Divine Distraction album. This is on SoundCloud. So if you go to Oakland News now and you click on Lyda at CES Las Vegas 2019, you'll hear this.
Dance to the sound of a million heartbeats. 6 to my stomach, but don't worry. Just leave me dancing. Oh God, I love it. Just leave me dancing. I swear I'm happy. 'Cause I love the lines in my eyes. Leave me blind. I can't remember what the world looks like. That's how I like it. Don't wanna fight it. I'll come to life. 'Cause my religion is a night.
Lyda. This is my favorite. I like this. She is the official music for our coverage of CES Las Vegas 2019. Richard Hayek, how you doing, man? Welcome. How are you? And Fried Chicken says maybe the XFL will bring a team to Oakland. I'll tee that up again. Hey, so folks, when you have a chance, I'm going to give you the link so you can listen to more of Lyda's music. I really want you to check it out, okay? I just want you to check out Lyda. This is here. And Richard says, good, been wasting my day with lawsuit junk. Hey, so hold on a second. You got time to talk about it? Rich, on the phone? I'm doing the call-ins. I got the phone here, man. You want to be the last call-in before I jump? Richard says he guesses he could. That's why not, man? Richard's been one of the, well, you all have been the glue that have kept this together and got this, together. Here we go. This is Zenny62 vlogger Richard Hyde.
What's up, Zenny?
How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good.
What do you think about all this?
Mixed feelings. I'm kind of.
Wait, is this like Wall Street? Mixed feelings, like what's the line? Like who's the guy driving off of the cliff in a Maserati or something?
It's sad because I was always kind of holding out that hope that maybe something would happen and they'd stay. It'd all get worked out in the end, but been sitting on this for too long, and it's good. I thought they should have had a lawsuit waiting to go the day that the vote happened. But it's funny that the city isn't even the driver behind this. It was fans.
Right. That's right. It was fans. No, the fans really got it. Yeah, that was Godfather Grizz, and Ray Bobbitt, and Bousman, Rich, Brian Dixon, and those guys. Yeah.
I mean, and nobody wanted to take it at first. It was funny. I was kind of taken aback a bit by seeing, everybody who, like Twitter and stuff, come out and like, we're finally going to stick it to them. We're going to stand. I'm like, where were you 2 years ago? And like, you know, it's like you didn't want to sue. You voted not to sue. You know, and now you know you're going to just ride the coattails here. I mean, I feel like that's just politics.
So the bandwagon effect.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I kind of feel bad because I do have, you know, a lot of friends who are hoping they'll see the Raiders next season. You know, they weren't planning on Christmas Eve being the last one. And I mean, they haven't said one way or another, but whether they will leave or not. But you know, everybody's pointing to the, door.
I want to address, and Ryan Abbott asked the question that I want to address. The question is, why not Oakland privately funded like the others? Ryan, that's a good question. And I'll explain to you how the NFL thinks by reciting to you an email response that was sent to me by Bruce Allen, the president of the Redskins. And it basically went like this. I said, hey, look, there's a private finance solution. I figured out a way to you know, close the $400 million gap. This is when I had the hotel concept. Bruce said, Zinni, you know, public money is the best for us. And look, you can show them a free and clear revenue stream. You can say, hey, look, but this is how it works. You can say, hey, look, I have this hotel. And they'll say, well, we're not in the hotel business. Well, I'm not saying you're in the hotel business. The hotel is a consultant. The hotel works with the developer. You just let them build their thing, and they give you your chunk, and that equals $400 million over like a 30 or 20-year period, right? But that's not how the NFL thinks. They want it really simple. In other words, just give me $400 million, give me $750 million out of tax money, and just let me do my thing. Don't talk to me about this hotel here or, you know, this brine plant over here. I'm being facetious, okay? It's a matter of how they think, okay? And I'm not being derisive of it. I'm simply explaining to you what the mindset of some of the group is. Now, the more sophisticated ones who are in real estate, like Stan Kroenke, they get having multiple revenue streams like movie theaters over here, condominiums over there, and so on, that help in part finance a stadium when you cobble them together. But not everybody's like that. And among those who are not, that includes Mark Davis. So that's
that
why.
Leads me to something there, if you have a moment for me to interject.
Yeah.
Is if you're going to come and ask for public money, I think the public should get a piece of the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, because you give them the money, and then they go, we're going to take off anyways. Bye.
But Richard, that came up. Did you go to the town hall? Because I don't think we met. That came,
town hall?
The town hall that was held in 2015 at the Fox Theater.
No, I didn't make it to that, and I regret it.
That was brought up there.
Yeah,
and Eric Grubman actually addressed that in the post town hall press conference, of which I was at, and it's on Zenny62 on YouTube. You can say Town Hall Grubman, Oakland. All right, and he said that was an idea that they were going to explore. Now, how far that got, I don't know. I have to follow up. But he did say that.
Probably about a second after you answered the question is as far as it got. I feel like a lot of what they tell people is lip service. I mean, that's probably how we got to this lawsuit in the first place. Is this them telling people what they wanted to hear, meanwhile stringing them along the whole time. I did actually sit there, and I was really surprised I could do it. Read all 49 pages of the lawsuit.
Hey, but you did it.
Yeah. Most of it sounded very repetitive. But you know, they're driving the point home. I get it. But it definitely gives me an interesting view of how this works, because everybody said that they couldn't be antitrust because of the way that you're by making them stay, you kill their competitive their competition. You know, you don't allow them to make money by making them stay, and that would be antitrust. It would be.
Yeah, well, this argument's actually the reverse.
Right. And I think they actually say that in part of it. There was one thing where they referred back to the first Raiders lawsuit with Los Angeles.
Right.
And they're like, well, that was the argument then.
But see, there's a difference, though. You know what came out of that first one that impacts this one?
The ruling about relocations?
The very relocation bylaws themselves.
Yeah.
The genesis for the relocation bylaws were born during that case. Said, hey, the judge said, you know what? You need some guidelines here. And the NFL said, oh, we'll make them. And they did.
And then they threw them out the window.
Well, when it suited them, which is how we got here.
Right. I wasn't aware of how they were considered, or the NFL was, as a cartel. And that was a little bit of a game changer, at least mentally, for how I
really. Why is that? Because I've always viewed the NFL as a cartel.
When I think of cartels, I think of criminals, honestly.
Well, that's a left field. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, because as we hear drug cartels.
Oh, jeez, no.
And traffic people who are. When I think of gangsters, people who are trying to move merchandise in a very small avenue. It's not an open market thing. It's a very limited market.
So riddle me this: why wouldn't you consider a cartel a utility company?
I do, because it almost becomes a monopoly. But a monopoly that is derived, by competition within itself. The NFL isn't competing with other leagues. They're competing with themselves. But at the end of the day, they're sharing all the rewards.
See, here's how I look at it, and it's based on some work I did for a utility consulting company. I built a series of system dynamics models for them. This was in 1995. And what I learned was that outside of PG&E in California, there were a number of smaller PG&E-like utility companies that own different pipelines, right? And those companies, taken as a whole with PG&E, act as a cartel. They have jurisdictions. They acquire gas at different prices. They trade it. And they are in a kind of a controlled competition.
Right.
The control is established by the government. If you take that model, that ideology, and apply it to the NFL, you see the same thing. You have 32 utility companies that compete with each other in a controlled environment that's created by a central organization. It's created and managed by a central organization, ran by someone called the commissioner.
Right.
Okay.
But while they compete, they also work together to create, that market advantage for themselves.
Right. They have one primary source of revenue, and they don't let any team go rapidly beyond that source of revenue to over-enrich themselves over the other team. I mean, so that's what makes or maintains the competitive balance of the league.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's the idea.
Yeah. So, it's an interesting take on it, and once I saw that, it made the idea, the structure sound a little. It was a little clearer about how they do business, and it was an interesting window into the NFL.
Yeah, no, it's just fun stuff. I mean, people are going to learn a lot that they didn't learn before. But as I say, I tell everybody to go back to May 24th, 2016, Roger Goodell addressing the good faith issue in San Francisco at the NFL owners meeting. And you can see it on Zenny 62. And I'm gonna play it one more time before I close out. Here it is. Oh, wait a minute.
I've talked to a number of Oakland officials, including the mayor as recently as yesterday, and they'll all express, and this goes back the last 12 months, concerns that the Raiders are not negotiating because what's become behind closed doors a very big mess. Thank you.
Well, Zenny, listen, I think this has been a very transparent issue. I spoke to the mayor last night at 10 o'clock, so I'm in touch with her. I told her before if there are proposals or solutions that she can identify or that we can help them identify. We have given, from an ownership standpoint, another $1 million, $300 million to get a stadium built in Oakland. We believe in that market. I know Mark Davis does. But there has to be a solution to that. It's not just on us. There's got to be cooperative agreement to try to find that solution. It's been a long time coming, as you know, and this isn't something that started 12 months ago. This has been a long time that we've been seeking a solution in Oakland, and it's time to get to that. And we will play our part, and I know the Raiders will also.
Is they concerned that Mr. Davis is perhaps playing his own game and not following anybody else? And this has to do with Las Vegas. UNLV President Lynn Jessup releasing a statement where they went off being the Raiders to visit them. The city of Oakland had no knowledge of it. The Raiders told the city of Oakland, we're not going to meet with you. They didn't tell them about Vegas. They said, wait until we deal with Houston, meeting with Los Angeles. Then they said, wait until we have a new lease agreement signed, which happened on the 27th of April. So there are a number of people, council members on deck.
By the way, folks, that UNLV meeting is chronicled in a memo that was released by Aubrey Clerkin when she was the digital editor for News 3 Las Vegas. She put that, and I happened to find it. This is a couple years ago. She put that out on Scrim on the 28th of January of 2016. Okay, and that was the smoking gun. That was how I discovered that the Raiders had been going behind the back of the city of Oakland, because at that point in time, the city had expected the Raiders to sign. I don't know if you remember Larry McNeil. Remember Larry McNeil, Richard Hike? The guy that, yeah, Larry McNeil was supposed to be the Raiders stadium czar and all that stuff, and they hired him, made that big to-do about it. Now you haven't heard anything from him or about him. And then the idea is, okay, well, they ostensibly hired Larry in February, but he had some personal issues to get out of the way, and he wasn't going to be able to start work until, if my memory serves, April 1st, no April Fool joke, of that year, 2016. And I have emails that he had exchanged with Claudia Capio, who was then the assistant city manager or city administrator for Oakland, the point person that Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf had attached to this project. And the exchange of emails they had were around an infrastructure plan the city of Oakland had in place already since 2012. Okay, so all he was doing was basically getting up to speed. There was no new work that was actually done. Okay, so while he's off doing, he being Larry McNeil is off communicating with Claudia, Mark Davis and the Raiders are acting a lot like the M5 Multitronic computer in Star Trek, The Ultimate Computer episode, where M5 is basically fooling Captain Kirk by sending off this false relay signal over here, while M5 actually goes and does work over there, right, to take over the Enterprise, okay? That's exactly what Mark Davis was doing. So there you go. All right.
Down, city attorney's office, they're really concerned that the Raiders are not playing fairly with them.
Well, Danny, I take a different view on that. The Raiders have been very open about the challenges to get the stadium built. It's not fair to shift all of that responsibility to the Raiders. They bear some. But public officials, the private sector, the Raiders, the NFL, we all have a responsibility. It's a shared responsibility. And it's not one for standing there and saying,
And I go back to this. This is the other thing that Roger said. Listen to this. Listen to this. Listen to this.
It's not fair to shift all of that responsibility to the Raiders. They bear some.
He says they bear some. To what degree?
It's not fair to shift all of that
responsibility
to the Raiders. They bear some.
They bear some.
But public officials.
What does he mean?
The private sector, Raiders, the NFL, we all have a responsibility. It's a shared responsibility. And it's not one for standing there and saying it's somebody else's responsibility. We all have to work together to find that solution.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner.
So there you go, folks. All right, Rich, I'm going to head out, my man.
Good night, Denny.
All right, man. Hey, everybody. All right, see. Hey, everybody. Thanks a lot. I'm going to get some of your comments out of the way here. Richard Abbott, thank you. And Richard says, Troy Polamalu, something about that. Alliance for American Football. I am. All right, fine. Ryan says you can get revenue from Green Bay to gauge other teams since it's public. Good idea. Talking about the whole public thing. All right. We'll be back tomorrow, folks. It's almost 2 o'clock in the East here. And, yeah. We get some sleep and check on my mom, see how she's doing. And get ready for tomorrow. And by the way, don't forget, as we close out, Richard, thank you so much, man. And Richard, do me a favor and check out Lida. I'm going to give you this is her song on SoundCloud. It's called Religion, my favorite. All right, that one. It's Richard Hike, as Rob Iman says, keep America alive, watch horror movies. Check out Lida on SoundCloud. That's called Religion. That is called Religion right there. And she is the official music. Isn't that cool?
New York City, keep it high, keep it pretty. I'm gonna live my dream, but first another drink.
Lida.
I love this city like the river.
Check her out, folks. Next great music star. All right, everybody. I'll see you later. Good night.
Just leave me there.
See you all. Thanks again.